My grandmother left me her house, and now my aunt is contesting the will with the worst argument ever. My grandmother Helen died last February at 83. She'd lived in the same house in Savannah for 50 years, the one she and my grandfather bought in 1974. It was a beautiful old Victorian with a wraparound porch and a huge magnolia tree in the front yard. I'd spent every summer there as a kid. Grandma Helen had 3 children. My mom Catherine, who died of cancer 6 years ago, my uncle Robert, and my aunt Diane. The will reading was in March at her lawyer's office. My uncle, aunt, and I sat in Mr. Patterson's office while he went through everything. Most of it was straightforward. Her savings were split evenly between Robert and Diane. Her jewelry went to Diane. Her book collection went to Robert, who'd always been a reader like her. Then Mr. Patterson got to the house. He said the house and property were left entirely to me, Grace Mitchum. My aunt's head snapped up. She asked him to repeat that. He did. The house, valued at approximately $450,000, was mine. Diane immediately said there must be a mistake. Mr. Patterson showed her the will. It was dated 2 years ago and very clearly stated that the house was to go to me. There was even a handwritten note from my grandmother attached explaining her reasoning. The note said that since my mother had passed away, I was the one who'd continued to visit her regularly. I'd driven down from Atlanta every other weekend to have lunch with her, help her with yard work, and just keep her company. She said Robert and Diane were busy with their own lives, and she understood, but I'd made her feel loved and not forgotten in her final years. She wanted me to have the house. Diane was furious. She said it wasn't fair that the house should be split between her and Robert since they were the actual children. Mr. Patterson explained that the will was legal and clear. Diane said she was going to contest it. 2 weeks later, I got a letter from Diane's lawyer. She was officially challenging the will on the grounds that my grandmother had been mentally incompetent when she wrote it and that I had unduly influenced her. I called Mr. Patterson. He said the mental competency claim would be difficult for Diane to prove since Grandma Helen had been sharp as a tack until the day she died. She'd passed all her cognitive tests at her last physical just 3 months before she died. As for undue influence, he said spending time with your grandmother and being kind to her didn't constitute manipulation. The contest dragged on for months. Diane's lawyer kept filing motions and requesting evaluations. In August, they finally got their hearing. I had to take 2 days off work to sit in a courtroom, while Diane's lawyer argued that I'd manipulated a vulnerable old woman. Their main evidence was that I'd visited her frequently in her last 2 years. The lawyer tried to frame this as suspicious, suggesting I'd only done it to secure the inheritance. He kept using the phrase calculated kindness, like spending time with your dying grandmother was some kind of con. My lawyer presented phone records showing I'd been calling Grandma Helen weekly for 10 years, long before she got sick. He had photos of me at her house going back to my childhood. He had letters she'd written to me over the years talking about how much my visits meant to her. Then he called Uncle Robert to testify. Robert admitted he'd only visited his mother maybe 3 times in the last 2 years. He said he lived 2 hours away and was busy with work. He said Diane lived 45 minutes away but visited even less frequently than he did. The judge asked Diane directly how often she'd visited her mother in the final 2 years. Diane said maybe once every few months. The judge asked if she'd ever offered to help with yard work or household tasks. Diane said no because her mother never asked. The judge looked at her for a long moment. Then he asked what specific evidence she had that her mother was mentally incompetent. Diane's lawyer said they had testimony that Helen had been forgetful sometimes. My lawyer immediately produced her medical records showing 0 cognitive decline. Then the judge asked about the undue influence claim. Diane's lawyer said I'd clearly manipulated my grandmother by visiting so often and helping around the house. The judge asked how spending time with a family member constituted manipulation. Diane's lawyer didn't have a good answer. He kept saying it was suspicious that I was the only grandchild who visited regularly. The judge said it sounded like I was the only grandchild who made an effort, and that wasn't grounds to overturn a will. He dismissed the case. The will stood as written. The house was mine. Diane hasn't spoken to me since the hearing. Robert called to apologize for not shutting down Diane's contest earlier. He said he'd told her from the beginning that she didn't have a case, but she refused to listen. He said he thought the will was fair given that I'd been the one actually taking care of their mother. I moved into the house in October. I've been fixing it up slowly, repairing things that needed attention. Every time I sit on that porch, I think about Grandma Helen and how she used to make sweet tea, and we'd sit out there for hours talking about everything and nothing. Diane wanted the house because it was valuable. I wanted it because it was where my grandmother lived and where all my best childhood memories were. The judge understood the difference even if Diane never will.